Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Shuffle Bus. It is Jesse. Joining me in person tonight is Neil. Neil, how are you tonight, man?
Good. I'm trying to get the chat up on my phone.
Yeah,
Because we were just watching the Stoneblade stream.
We just finished watching Stoneblade stream, so
hopefully everybody else was too.
I know. I hope so because it was a really good stream. Lucas and Nick were live for the last hour or so, showcasing the app, and I think there's a lot of really cool things to take out of that. So we'll unpack a little bit of that here tonight, probably top of the show, and then
Christy, thanks for coming over.
And then we'll definitely be back. Hey, what's up, Christy? What's up, Cardboard
Greg.
Newt? How's it going?
Yes, in person, Sam. I flew from Orlando to Lincoln here, and then we drove to Gencon.
That's right.
I drove back. I fly back to Orlando in the morning.
That's right. So this is kind of old school Shuffle Bus, Neil. Like we used to do this every week, and now it's
Our
differently.
setup is better than it was before.
The equipment's better.
I'm gonna take a picture of what we have sitting in front of us. We can put in the Discord because it's pretty good.
It's pretty bad right now.
Let's take a little picture of the old.
We're no longer set up for in-person streams very well, so we've really lived on the back of Tabletop Simulator and online, and so I do apologize. Some of the transitions and stuff today will be a little rough because of it, but. If you check out our Discord, Neil is posting a picture of our live stream setup right now.
This is our
and the rig that's set up for it.
Message.
I was having problems with Discord too, so I don't know if Discord's acting up or what's going on. But
I'll send it sometime tonight.
Yeah,
for anybody that's curious, we have his child's play kitchen stove and sink that our mic booms are attached
That's
to.
right. That's right.
Real professional.
We got all kinds of folks in the house tonight. The Manly core Greg is in the house, and more than most of Eli's here.
Apparently, all we have to do is just poke Lucas to pitch us on their
that's
stream.
Right.
And then
that's right.
We just piggyback on their success.
Who's here from the Stoneblade stream? Looks like quite a few people. Dean, what's going on, man? Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you being here, and also thanks for commenting on our videos, dude. That helps the algorithm, so it's super awesome that you chime in on those. If you've been watching the YouTube, you've seen rounds 1 and 2 from the World Championship event. Round 3 will be coming soon, probably either tonight or tomorrow at the latest. We'll try to get round 4 up before the weekend, and then I'll just slowly push out the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. So you'll get to see all the way through to the end on that coverage. We had a blast at Gen Con.
It was so good
doing that. Yeah, the event was
awesome.
So good. And I want to I guess let's just take a quick couple of minutes, Neil, and let's talk about Gen Con as an experience, and then we'll kind of start breaking down what's up. Stoneblade in the house. Welcome to the stream. I don't know if that's Nick or Lucas or who, but thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys. Let's break down just your experience with Gen Con, because this is your first,
It was my first Gen Con ever, yep. And I don't think that I maximized the Gen Con experience, but I did maximize the Solforge experience. Obviously, like I said, I got 10 days off work. That's a lot of days for a 4-day convention.
Right.
Flew to Lincoln. Then we drove the 10 hours, first night. Oh, okay. Yeah. Am I too loud?
No, you're too quiet.
Oh, okay. The first night we show up, Wednesday night, stood in line, what I thought was just going to be an awful, god-awful will call line. It was not. It was good. Hung out with... I guess we didn't hang out
with anybody that night. No, we kind of got
home late. Yeah.
But we had a long day the next day in front of us.
Yeah, the first day with the Worlds event was awesome. It was everything I wanted it to be. Doing the coverage was great. It looked great. In spite of us, it sounded great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have in theory been preparing for this for many years, right? To be able to do live coverage at a big con like Gen Con with our equipment and things like that. What's up, Fletch? Fletch in the house as well. Good to see you, man. Yeah. Yeah, I think that all in all, our equipment went pretty well. We had one camera malfunction. We were hoping to have...
They didn't want to see our... We had a face cam, but you guys don't want to see us anyway. That's not what you're here for.
Yeah. So we were able to pivot off of the face cams for that. Obviously, we would have preferred to have those up and running, but didn't work out. So I guess I got some equipment to upgrade still. But... Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you kind of nailed it on the head, right? Like it was just a weekend of Solforge, right? Like
Right. Yeah. The rest of Gen Con was there, and we explored it a little bit, but we were there for Solforge, and it was great to meet Alex in person. Obviously, he came further than we did.
Yeah,
like a lot further.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah, Manly, it was great to meet you as well. I mean, that's one of the best parts. I was going to comment on that tonight. Just like this community is so awesome. Like you guys are the best.
God, so many people were just like, "Hey, I heard your voice. You must be." I'm like, "Yep. I have no idea who you are, but it's nice to meet you."
Yep. Yeah, it was. I mean, I think we didn't do anything but hang out with Solforge players basically all weekend, except for we did catch up with some of our old Transformers buddies, and then it did get a chance to say hi to some folks from the Ashes community as well, which was great. But I mean, let's kind of we might as well start the recap of the Solforge events, because I think that's going to take us most of the night anyways, and there's a lot to unpack. So obviously, Sam Nathis Gaming, was able to win, Worlds and become the first ever world champion for Solforge Fusion, and he did it on a purple-green deck that.
We'll
I don't know how to describe it.
We'll probably do deck breakdowns, specific deck breakdowns coming in the coming weeks here. But
yeah, it's a little more difficult to do on this setup because it's hard for me to pivot around scenes and stuff like that. But we will definitely be having Sam on the show in the coming future to talk about his lead up to the World Championship, his mindset around the World Championship, and ultimately his ability to to actually pilot that deck to a World Finals.
Christy says, I knew you before I saw you by voice, and that was the first person, was Christy. Like, I heard the Shuffle of Us guys are here, like running back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, like, man, we had so much great conversation around this game.
All of you guys should be real excited to have the top 8 games uploaded, because Cardboard Newt puts in here that other Sam, they're both Sam.
Yeah.
But
I messed that up so many times.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, Cardboard Newt. I really do apologize for that.
He assumes that anyone named Sam is Nathis, but that's not right. But Cardboard Newt says his GURP will take some practice, referring to Nathis's green-purple deck.
Yeah.
It does have a lot of angles on it. And there was like one point in the first top 8 game where we were just like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And I had to go
we had
research
to work it back,
the deck list to work it backwards to figure out where it was. But we got there. But so I say in the coverage at some point, I don't know that anybody deserves it more than Nathis, just for the amount of work I know he puts in.
Yep.
And there are tons of great players out there, and everybody that's at Worlds had a chance to win and would be very deserving of champion. But I don't know anybody that plays just the sheer amount of Solforge like Nathis does.
Yeah,
he just plays so many games all the time.
He really does, and obviously he has such a unique skill set.
I take it personally every time.
I'm sorry, Cardboard. I'm gonna have to buy you a drink or something at the next Gen Con, because that's my bad. I'll tell you the same thing.
It works both ways, right?
Yeah.
Everybody just knew us by voice. We hadn't met anybody either yet.
yeah, that's right. And at the end of the day,
and I had the advantage of having met Newt at Indy a couple months previous.
That does help.
Over you.
That does help. So I also I'm a coffee person in the morning, and it takes
now you're just making excuses.
I know it is true, but it takes me a little bit to get my brain really ramped up in the morning. It's just the way it works for me. So
what's good?
Not much. So if you catch that on the stream, there was this funny moment on Thursday morning before
this was the
World Finals.
The real
highlight,
the real metaphor of how Gen Con went.
It was bad. But
it was so good.
I pulled into Starbucks just to order a coffee to drink on the way into the convention center, and the coffee barista.
You got your coffee now?
Okay? I do. The cafe's barista, Starbucks barista, instead of saying hi or welcome to Starbucks or whatever, just said, "Hey, welcome to Starbucks. What's good?" And I went, "Not much." Clearly, That's not true. But
he's a pessimist.
I'm like, I
Nothing's
really hope I
good.
didn't ruin that barista's day.
Existence is pain.
That's right. That's right. So it just I let it sit too because I didn't even realize like it had happened until
I was just laughing, and you
just didn't even know it.
God.
So, anyways, we're Gen Con and the World Championship. I think there was a subtext there that there was a lot of Rumble Heart, which is what we're trying to dub this thing is this deck archetype that involves Dark Heart Sorcerer and Rumble Spark embodiment. I don't remember the exact numbers. We'll have that in our tournament breakdown.
Right. I mean, we definitely watched Sam for 3 rounds.
Right.
Play it, and it was obviously great.
And it showed back up in the finals, right? So,
Yep.
so I mean, it's definitely here. It's definitely going to stay. And I mean, obviously, you know our takes if you've been watching the show. If not, go back a couple of weeks ago and watch our live stream, and you'll see kind of how we talk about it towards the end of that show. But the thing that's interesting about it is obviously it didn't win Worlds. It was right there at the top tables. It dominated. It dominated the deck selection at Worlds for sure.
Yeah, it was a large percentage of the field.
And so obviously that prompted a lot of discussion throughout the weekend. Because to kind of back that up and even go a step forward, the next day we had our big sealed event. And in the big sealed event, somebody did pull a Rumble Heart in the sealed and ultimately won.
Yeah,
it was one of the undefeateds. There were 2 undefeateds.
It was Steven, Hellkite.
And then Trey was the second player, but he didn't have the Rumble Spark, right? But they were both undefeated at the end of 5 rounds of Swiss with no cut on the sealed event. So,
yeah, I mean, not to take anything away from Hellkite because he's an excellent player.
Yeah.
But, Philly won Fuse Fest with Rumble Dark Heart. And it's just, like, sealed especially, I'm sure it just dominates.
Rusty, the hard part for me, Manly, Billy Bad Aim, Rusty, I don't know what to call anybody anymore because now I know all their real names too. The hard part for me was not calling everybody by their Discord names all the time. Like, because when we do our coverage of our online tournaments, we call them by their Discord name, not their real name. And it's really...
As soon as I meet someone, it's always going to, like, come out a little bit because I, like, will use your first name.
Right.
So if that bothers anyone, please, like, tell me before you get on coverage.
Yep.
But
yeah, so I mean, the sealed event obviously was also, to me, was the most fun part of the weekend.
Well, we actually played in it, right?
We did get a play in the sealed. Both Neil and
it
I
was
played in the
scheduled.
sealed.
It was scheduled for the Worlds to go both days, Thursday and Friday.
Right.
But the players decided that they wanted to finish the cut day 1.
Yep.
Which was good for us because then we got to play.
And it also meant we didn't have to tear down the rig and reset it all up for a second.
Right,
day,
and we didn't have to bring
win.
the camera rig back the second day, which was a blessing.
Yep.
Because I, like, tripped some lady out front of Dick's on the way back to the hotel the first night.
Yeah. So we... yeah. I mean, navigating the streets of Gen Con is wild. For sure.
Well, I was carrying those mic booms, and they're just obnoxiously long boxes.
Right.
And
said mic booms that
we
are
were
currently in the
we were
frame
walking
here.
past the restaurant that, like, Jerch and everybody was waiting outside of, so I, like, turned to wave, and I turned sideways so the boom, like, just crossed the sidewalk. But yeah, I mean, the most fun day for me was definitely day 1 because I just love doing the commentary, and everything went so smooth and so good, and I haven't seen round 3 or 4 yet, or the top 8 obviously, but it came out good on YouTube too.
Yeah. So
the first 2.
So let's, I mean, obviously talk about, well, first off, I got to give Alex and Fletch, Nick, a ton of props. They ran 3 incredibly smooth events.
Yep.
Through this entire con. I mean, cons can be really difficult to run events at. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, and they obviously had the support of the rest of their staff running the booth, so they only had to worry about the event center, but it was good. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, they just did an excellent job. Kept the rounds moving relatively quick. Like, we had very little delay in between the time call and end of rounds.
And they all started promptly and finished quickly, and it was really good. And
so, Neil, how did your sealed day go? How did it turn out for you?
Not great.
Okay.
I mean,
all right. I mean,
I should have played blue, but I played red because I like.
So what did you play? Can you explain what you played? I mean, obviously we're not.
I played large green creatures, which
Okay.
I think is correct essentially every time in sealed because most of sealed card advantage just comes from winning combats. So you're like decks that have good cycle 1 and cycle 2 stats, I think are better.
Sure.
And then I like played this red half that I thought was cool, and it was bad. I mean, it is cool.
I mean,
but I should have.
You tried to make Chaining Frosthulk work in sealed.
No.
Kidding.
I had a Chaining Frosthulk in that half, but that wasn't why.
I mean,
I do have an unhealthy love affair with Frosthulk. I think that card's very cool, but it had like some spell synergy stuff and a couple removal spells. But I should have just played the blue half I had with just for more like reasonable men instead of having like spell stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I am in love with set 2 green blue, like just in love with it.
I think it's really good in sealed.
It's been amazing to play it. I've had really good success locally with green blue sealed in set 2, and in this tournament I was able to go eventually finish 5th overall in the sealed. My only loss being to Hellkite. And that game was really, really close and interesting. I think
Mendungu says day 1 was great, but would have preferred more players.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus from everybody would been to see a larger pool of players at Worlds. But I do like the exclusivity and the difficulty potentially to get there. Like I wasn't sure I was really keen on it when we went in. I kind of was on record as being a little bit critical of it.
It had a couple barriers to entry, but it go back 3 or 4 shows or whatever, and we talk about that barrier of entry and what it means. It's just like kind of what Stoneblade wanted to be, because you could tell that for this weekend, Stoneblade, their focus was on the storyline event,
right?
Not on the Worlds. Like that was not to say that there's no focus on Worlds, but the like cornerstone event of Gen Con was the storyline event for them. They put it on Saturday, the biggest day. It was very accessible to everyone. It obviously had a much larger turnout than Worlds, but alongside just that, I think in general they wanted Worlds to be, like you said, a more exclusive clientele, and we got there, right? Like the top 8 was incredibly stacked. Right, like
I mean, it was definitely a murderer's row for sure. I mean,
yeah, I mean, we had the best players in the world there.
I think that the size of the sealed event and the size of the storyline indicate the preferred engagement method of the player base, but it's hard to judge that strictly off of Gen Con because the entry point for Worlds, both price and deck level requirement, could have prohibited some folks that wanted to play in it.
Right. There definitely were like 3 hurdles, the 2 that you named, and just it being on Thursday instead of Saturday.
Correct. Yeah.
That made it less accessible than the storyline.
Right.
But that's okay. I mean, the storyline was a huge success too. It was a lot of fun to play in, and it seemed like everybody had a great time there. Like, I thought the one round that had the like you trigger off your opponent's stuff modifier was like too fiddly and awkward.
Man,
but all the other ones were fine.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that was the 4th round of the
I don't remember
the storyline.
It was a long weekend.
But yeah, so obviously since we started talking about storyline, we saw the storyline play out. The lore has been posted to Stoneblade's website since then, so you can go out and read it if you weren't at the storyline event and kind of understand what happened. But the long and the short of it is Sunder and Oros get corrupted. And we get a preview from Stoneblade at Gen Con.
We get the equivalent of one preview because I believe it is 2 halves. like we get 0.5 of a preview twice.
Yeah. So we got Exalted Sunder and Exalted Oros. And if you haven't seen those yet, I'm pretty sure they're on the Discord Hype Train channel for Stoneblade. But otherwise, the general gist of it is we don't really know at this point how Sunder and Oros become exalted, but we believe
if we have some time at the end of the show after we talk about the preview they did tonight, we can talk about those previews too.
Yep. Christy says TLDR Necram rules. Maybe.
But that's not like news, right? Like we knew that before.
Yeah.
It's not. Like, it's contrary to what Joel says. Like the news is not always purple is good. That's just fact, and it
sure.
Elijah
adding that Eli adding that I think it's buried in general. We will talk some theories tonight about these Exalt cards. Obviously,
Eli wants theories. We walked over to that deli and Eli and I were just like theorying.
Yeah, I mean
theorizing.
That was a good walk. I mean, with the Kreesh brothers and Eli and we met Rusty over there. It had one of the best delis I've ever eaten. I don't remember the name of that place. Do you?
I don't know. Greg or Ryan.
Yeah,
I saw Greg was in here.
If
Ryan's not here, I'm going to be really insulted because he was like giving me shade in the
in the
SBE
chat.
stream.
Yeah.
So one of them will give the name of the thing or Eli.
The package has not been delivered to Joel.
No, nobody give it away.
Yeah, please don't say
anything. Hush on the Joel package.
I have specifically left that out of the synopsis.
There you go. Rusty, it's Shapiro's.
Yeah, Rusty adding it in here. If you're in Indianapolis, downtown Indianapolis, you need to go eat at Shapiro's.
It was only like 3 blocks away, and it was so good. Yeah. And it was so much food. Oh my god, it was so much food.
Tons. So, anyways, we go into the storyline event. And Neil, what did you play in storyline?
I played my blue half I always play with the double rallying Drix.
Double rallying Drix, yep.
And I played a purple half that I have recently acquired from Tess from Grey Viking. I thought it was pretty good. I went 3-2. I lost one round badly that I should have lost. I lost another round that was pretty disappointing. I didn't. Sorry. Christy says it's Fight Club. No one knows what you're talking about.
You're right, Christy. Say no more.
Yeah.
First rule of Fight Club.
I don't know if Joel's watching now, but he's gonna watch this and then he's gonna
be really incentivized. I'm hoping to meet up with Joel this weekend. He is traveling last week. We were traveling as well, and so I've just been playing catch-ups, getting back into the swing of things since I missed the last 3 days of work last week. So I'm hoping to get over there and see him tomorrow or Friday or maybe even Saturday if at the latest. But yeah, his package will get delivered here soon, and of course, once it is, I will be sure to post it in the SBE Discord as well as our Discord for anybody that follows along there. So you play your Drix. It's double rallying Drix, and then you play purple half.
So for anybody, I guess, that's new here, I guess I'm kind of operating on the assumption that everybody that watches us was just like there or knows what it is.
Sure.
But in the storyline event, much like they did at Fuse Fest, there were static modifiers every round that were based upon the storyline.
Yes.
And I guess they were better access for the players in this one because they didn't have a card for it in Fuse Fest, right?
Right. In Fuse Fest, we were just read the rule modifiers for a round.
Right.
Yeah.
So they gave us nice little player aids for all the rounds, and I don't know, but the round 1-1 was so insane. I think it was round 1-1.
Yeah, round 1 was pretty good for me too.
What was the one that reanimate the first guy that dies?
Necram on round 2.
Okay, so the round 2 one, that one was absolutely bonkers.
I was very fortunate to dodge a Necram opponent in that round.
It's so dumb. It was because the modifiers were based on what color your Forgeborn is.
Right.
So the Necram one in round 2 was the first time a creature you control is destroyed, reanimate it.
Right. Yep.
God.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
Did some stuff.
I remember reading that card and going, I'm glad I'm not playing Necram right now.
Yeah.
I think I was on an Utera matchup.
The other thing it did was every round you had the option to flip it to get a one-shot effect. But then when it was flipped, you got negative effects instead of positive ones. Did you ever flip yours?
I never flipped that day.
I never flipped either. And it wasn't because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
It was just because like it's the kind of effect that because it has such a negative impact on the backside.
Yeah.
Like you save until the last possible minute, and all my games were kind of decided before that was necessary.
Yeah.
Like I was never.
I was very much in a similar boat where most of the time I was really like I was like, oh well, I'll just wait until we're getting to the end of the game and then I'll flip it. It'll be okay. Like as if it can finish the game off. And so, like in my games, I went 3-2 on the day, and in my games, the games I won, like I just didn't need it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Rusty's in here is talking about Utera Charger.
Yeah.
Man, I saw that happen in a couple games that were playing like a Circe or something. So they had the first time something dies reanimate it. Utera Charger was absolutely insane. It was just like the dumbest thing you've ever seen.
Utera Charger is such a great card.
It's great by itself, but when it like level 2 Utera charges like kill 2 guys and it dies and it comes back and kills 2 guys, like there's just no guys left.
Yeah. Eli saying that Casey Kidd and him had a Necria matchup where they spent like 15 minutes on turn 1 trying to figure out how to play around it.
It was interesting, right?
But
like,
did Ryan play Necrium?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was playing green purple, and his Forgeborn was
Circe,
not whatever
the green half. I mean, obviously that deck of Ryan's. It was extremely good.
The green half of that is just god tier.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it just is. For
sure.
What? We should do like a quick like. Eli says I got Utera chargered. Yeah, I mean if anyone deserves it, it's probably him. Yeah. But how many people in here like actually did flip?
Yeah,
you don't gotta say what round or anything because it'll be too hard to
just
pan through everybody. But
just like in chat, say I flipped, you know,
or post the number of times. Yeah.
Be very curious about that, just because it had apparently some sort of impact on the storyline.
Right.
And that is
Ryan killed me when he flipped in round 1.
Yeah.
Because the round 1 Necrium flip was give +2/+2 and stealth, and he had a big boy elephant that.
So I think like I was thinking back on this, and we talked with Ryan and Greg both post storyline event. One of the potential things we'd like. Those guys are like, and I think I agree with them on is to kind of know what the stakes are, right? So in the storyline, they like told us if you flip, it'll have an impact on the future of the story, but they didn't really give us any information as to one way or the other.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I know
so,
that
like, we didn't really understand the decision of our choice from a story perspective, and I'd like to see that.
Right. I know that they like wanted it to be kind of vague because they want to have some creative control over it.
Right.
But you're right. Like at the end, you know, purple won the day. I don't know what you. I don't even know what you say. They won the story, so I don't know if that meant that purple like flipped the most.
Yeah.
Or...
Christy says that whichever faction flipped the most took control of Solus. I mean, she said solid, but I think she means Solus. So,
okay.
The thing is. Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably right, and I think that obviously having some latitude is important.
See, I didn't even know that was going to happen. Like, I knew it was going to affect the story, but like you said, it was kind of vague as to how, and it didn't seem like, you know, the way that they made it sound was you like gave in to the temptation of the Forge or something.
It just reduces. What I think it does is it reduces the engagement at a storyline event a little bit. Like you kind of go, well, I'm just going to make decisions. Not based on this greater overarching principle, but just on basically, can I win the game with this decision?
Right. It would have been interesting to like, and maybe they did say that, and I just didn't hear it. But like, it would be interesting because if you're the kind of player that cares about the lore and really wants to impact the future of the story, then maybe you would flip. Just like take your opportunity to try to win it for your faction. That's not really a thing that I would do. Because I want to try to win the game,
right?
And you know, if that was the case, and I was like, man, I really want Necrium to win, you know, if I was about to win the game and I could flip it for free, I would. But
right,
you know, I'm sure there are people out there that really want to have that hands-on
decision
availability to affect the story,
right?
And
The faction deck,
Maybe make it more clear.
Nick adding here, the faction deck that won the most captured the Forge, and the players who flipped the Forge determined which Forgeborn got flipped. So which Forgeborn got corrupted here, Sunder and Oros in this case, was based on the flipping decision.
The faction deck that won the most captured the Forge. Okay, so it was just like the color that won the most.
Right.
Was who won the banner
Right.
or whatever, and then so Oros and Sunder must have been like tied for the most times they like gave into the Forge.
Yeah, and Hellkite and Greg Core were undefeated. Greg running back his Silver Ultimate Championship deck.
Yeah,
here,
he was playing Dark
Forge
Forge Drain.
And going essentially undefeated. Him and Steven both did. Obviously, it'd have been great to see a cut or a matchup against those just to determine an ultimate winner. But because of that, Greg's deck does go gold. So the Oros Dark Forge Drain deck goes gold. So now we've got 2 gold decks. Weekend's got his deck. And Greg,
I don't know.
I don't know if we have any more gold decks yet. I'd be very
I'm sure there are
interested.
some somewhere.
Well, I mean, it's just the top 2 from...
Have the UK had enough events that there would be one over there?
No, not yet. Not
okay.
Silver-wise, no. I doubt it.
I did think it was kind of interesting that obviously we hit Oros and Sunder as the promos that we can talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
But they were kind of like corrupted by the Forge or whatever as part of the storyline event.
Right.
And it was just kind of fitting that that followed Greg's like Dark Forge Drain thing. I mean I don't know the actual lore behind Oros or whatever Dark Forge Drain is, but it seems like that's the...
Yeah, I mean, obviously Dark Forge Drain, I mean, I don't know all the lore behind Oros either, but I do believe that Oros has sort of been tampering around with dark magics.
Right.
Comparatively to Nova, who seems more in tune with the nature side of things and less about the corruption side of the nature. So I do think that, obviously...
Mundungu said that his golded also.
Mundungu's deck golded? Okay, that's great. Appreciate you giving me updates on that. I mean, we want to try to, if possible, I'm hoping to start a repository on our website, because these decks aren't going to move fast enough. So in my opinion, like, getting the decks that are gold all into a centralized location where we can reference them has good impact for understanding what decks are and what kind of... I don't want to call them archetypes, but that's the for lack of a better term, that's the what you might be looking for as you're trying to build a competitive deck in Solforge.
Christy says, by keeping it secret, I think it increased the fun of it. I intentionally didn't flip because I care about the lore and wanted Necream to take it.
So, I mean, the question would be, Christy, though, flipping here wouldn't have actually guaranteed Necream takes it, right? Like, what guaranteed Necream took it was just player participation, which we didn't know, and win rates for Necreum based Forgeborn. So the real thing would have been, would we have rather seen a corrupted Circe or a corrupted Nyx over Sunder or Oros like we got? I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, because it's very possible that set 3 just has all of these Forgeborn as exalted, right? Like, we just don't know for sure. But I want to go through these. Let's go ahead and theory craft a little bit. We're
okay. Well,
we're an hour into the show. Unless there's other things you want to cap off on Gencon here.
No, just that. I mean, just to reiterate again that it was a great time. Stoneblade did a great job.
Yep.
It was awesome to meet everybody.
Yep.
And interact, and
I mean, to me, that was the highlight of the weekend. Was just
sure
the engagement with everybody in the community. I mean. I knew who Christy was right away as soon as I saw her. I was like, oh, that's definitely Purple Christy, because she was just always in purple, so you just knew immediately who that was. All the other folks, like, it took me a little bit longer sometimes to make the connections, but some folks were even kind enough on their Gen Con badges to put their Discord names, which was like, good idea, guys. I should have done the same thing. That was some of the stuff that I noticed, but honestly, just I'll say this. For anybody that's watching this later, right, that maybe didn't go to Gen Con, maybe was on the fence about it, didn't feel like they'd know anybody there, whatever it may be, like, this group is one of the coolest trading card games, competitive card game communities I've ever been a part of. Like, ever. I mean, yes, there's multiple personalities, right? Without it, I mean, Eli is one of the most like crazy personalities I've ever been around. I just had so much fun with him this weekend. But and obviously, like, we spent a lot of time with Jurch from the Charge Plated podcast, and I mean, is there a guy that's nicer in the world than Jurch? No, I don't think so.
Not a single human being.
He makes you kind of self-reflect and go, boy, I could really improve my
well, yeah,
niceness quite a bit.
You meet Jurch and you're like, man, I have no, just like there's just no world where I should be hanging out with this man because I'm a terrible person and he's just a sweetheart. Like, it's just
and so then we had a chance to obviously hang out with the Creeshes a ton, both Greg and Ryan.
Yep.
Which those two brothers are so much fun. Like,
they're good guys.
They're good peeps. Yeah.
I mean, I met him, a couple of months before that at Indy.
And honestly, they have really, really good insight into the game.
Yes.
Which, honestly, I think we both walked away from some conversations with the Creeshes and went, I got to think on that a little bit. Because, like, it really...
I'm happy to know that through bribery from Stoneblade, Ryan's going to be making more content. He was like kind of taking a break from videos, and then Lucas is like, hey, you want to do a spoiler? And now he's all hyped about it again.
Yeah, because I gave him some crap. I said, look, if you want your content plugged on our channel, you're going to have to make some more content.
You have to make some. Yeah, you have to have some.
That's I was giving him crap all weekend for that. Eli saying, I got to spend 4 hours from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. with Jurch at the airport. That man is a treasure. Well, I'm sorry that you had to spend all night at an airport. That sounds terrible, Eli, but
I'm sure Jurch being there made it better.
Yeah, that definitely makes a big difference. I do hope everybody got home without too much trouble. I know there was
I haven't
some
heard from Jurch since Sunday, but I assume he made it home okay.
I think Cody posted something. They were getting ready to interview Nafis for next week's episode on the Charge Play podcast, so I'm very excited.
I guess they beat us to him.
Yeah, that's... Are you shocked?
No.
With Jurch? I mean, let's be honest. The guy's like...
I would rather talk to Jurch than us, too. Like, I just...
Fair. Yeah, so...
Maybe not Cody.
Yeah.
But
that darn Cody. Obviously...
Can't have one without the other.
Yeah. Eli says getting lunch with us and Rusty and the brothers was incredibly insightful.
Yeah, Eli. Honestly, Eli, it was great to meet you. We had so much fun hanging out with you those couple days.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's the thing that I'm like clamoring for the most post Gencon is like, when's the next time we can get everybody back together? When can we get the band back together? That's that's what I'm thinking. But long story short, like, I think the events were extremely well run. I think the community makes these things 100 times better. And what I was really leading to with that is, for somebody that maybe watches this that's on the outside and thinking about going to a big con like a Gen Con or a PAX or something like that, like, you don't have to be scared about this at all, because at the end of the day, these community members are just going to welcome you with open arms. Like, if you could walk up and say, hey, this is my first event, I don't know anybody. I mean, if you said that to Neil or I, you'd be like, all right, let's go, come to dinner with us, like, come to lunch with us, like that. And that's the way it is with almost everybody I met this weekend.
The only person that isn't going to do that is Jurch. And it's just because Jurch is going to go to the next level where he's going to want to, like, invade your personal space and, like,
give you the infamous back rub.
Yeah. He goes one step further. Like,
so true. So, I mean, some things you can expect from the channel as we get back to a regular schedule moving forward is we are going to be pushing the stream back. That 20-minute drive is excruciating. Okay, Rusty, I hear you. I feel it. we're going to next week. We're going to break down the World Champs deck. We're gonna try to get Nathis on as soon as possible. We're going to at least break down the deck next week. We're going to break down all of the decks and do kind of an in-depth analysis. We just haven't had enough time since Gen Con to really do that.
Yeah, it's only been a couple days, and I'm not home.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So
we were driving back from Gen Con. I'm like, I guess we're not going to stream this week because I don't have my computer.
Yeah, and I just
don't know how I'm going to connect to you. Oh, wait.
Slap down to the. We'll just do it in person. So
just drive 10 minutes across town.
That's right. That's right. So we really we'll do the kind of coverage you expect from the Shuffle Bus moving forward.
We also are going to have some spoilers from Stoneblade in the coming weeks.
Yes.
Because there's no way that Ryan can outdo us.
Well, I mean, he might.
No.
What if he gets a cooler card? Then we're just screwed.
I'll make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, all right. I'm
gonna go make some deals with Shadow and Lucas about this. Make sure
your bribe channel's on full effect here. Church is safe. That's good to hear.
That is good to hear.
So at the end of the day, then we'll come back and Neil and I we're gonna do a little bit of a. I don't know if we're going to do a video series or we're going to do it as part of the live stream yet. We're kind of working out the details on this, but our takeaway from Gen Con was sealed was one of the best ways to play this game.
It was great. And the sealed event was really good.
There's so much information and decisions that could be learned and unpacked from that I think we're going to spend some time talking with some of the best community members and some of the top tier players of Solforge. And then also you'll get to hear our opinion, which is maybe not as good, but
mine is.
Well, results. Results.
I did just as good as you.
Oh, really?
Nope.
I must have missed that alternate reality you live in. But honestly, like we're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk about like how you evaluate a deck pool and how I evaluate a deck pool, because what we found out on the drive home is we evaluate deck pools similarly, but also extremely different as well. Like
I'm not even sure similarly, just like,
well, I think we get to the same point where we're thinking about the same things, but we do it from a different angle.
Hopefully we're gonna get some additional input.
Yeah. So then we'll get some input from other players, because at the end of the day, like those players can help us get better too, right? So I mean that's what we really want to do. So we want to help everybody around us be able to improve their ability to play sealed at a competitive level. The other side of this whole thing is that we are going to unpack the what if. Does something need to be done with Rumbleheart? Does something need to be done with Proteus?
I kind of
you want to do that tonight? We got time. Okay.
I'm kind of hoping that Stoneblade will say something, or like at least give an inkling to what the process will be with those before we start, because there's nothing we can say that hasn't already been said or that people aren't already thinking about on this. And obviously, like, I talked about my opinion on it a couple weeks ago, just like how much I don't like power level errata. But so in general, I think that's a good, like, I want to hear from Stoneblade before we start doing it, because I'm sure that even in the days that I've been disconnected because I haven't been home, that people are already talking about it. That people are.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard as much about it. Obviously, one of the good ways to sort of, push down the conversation around it is to do exactly what Stoneblade's done, which is give us a bunch of spoilers to talk about.
Right. And
other things.
And obviously, those guys have the same issue that we do or I do, that, they just got home. Like Lucas was talking about, he slept all day yesterday because they had a longer weekend than we did.
Right.
And
for sure they did.
So it doesn't surprise me that there's not a lot of like immediate work of that kind being done, but hopefully by next week there'll be something and we'll have something to talk about on that front. But
Chad is honestly trying to set up Solforge Mansion Gen Con 2024. It's the Solforge Mansion. I mean, if this isn't a reality TV, like, we just got to get the charge plated to set up a pod there, and we'll just set up our rig there, and like we can just like live stream the whole mansion experience. Like it'll be like the lifestyles of the not so rich and famous.
We're gonna put them out of business before then, so can't compete with content of this quality. So I mean, obviously this is what I was saying 2 weeks ago or whatever when we had the last show. Just now that Gen Con's over, there's gonna be a ton of stuff coming,
right?
Because we have a ton of stuff to talk about. We were in kind of a lull, but now,
yeah, I feel like there's so much for us to break down now that
yep,
it really honestly, it's kind of it's like the opposite. It's like a deluge, and so
right. It's all at once. So now we have a couple weeks worth of
disseminate it and like prioritize that content. And we want to put out what you guys want to talk about, of course. So, I mean, that's the purpose of this show is, I mean, otherwise Neil and I could just make videos. So if there's something you want to hear us talk about first next week, either chime in on our Discord, chime in here, let us know, put it in the comments of the video, post VOD if you're catching this not live. Because at the end of the day, we do this show for you all, and at the end, we just want to make sure that we're putting something out that you want to watch and that's going to be engaging to you all. Fun fact: we are on our way to the road to 500 subscribers.
Yeah,
and I didn't realize it, but that's actually a point in time where YouTube allows us to monetize our channel. So that would be pretty crazy because I don't think we ever had any intentions of ever having a monetary stream on this at all.
We certainly haven't been working under the assumption this is going to pay us at all.
No. So it'd be cool. Like if you're not subscribed to the channel, obviously.
Now's
awesome.
the generic begging for clicks.
Please click and beg and do all those things because we're terrible.
Give us the
at
dislikes
it,
if you dislike it.
Yeah,
but
for sure. You can put thumbs.
I'll come to your house if you do.
Neil will hunt you down, and he'll come later with. He'll just bring cookies. I'm just warning you.
But they're not good.
Well, I don't know. You brought up a good cookie today to my house.
What?
Yeah, you tried to share your cookie.
Oh, I just bought it at Runza. Yeah, that was a lot of work.
I didn't say he actually made them, but.
So I guess.
Yes.
Jesus.
The Solforge Mansion.
Gaming tables, fiber internet streaming.
Yep. I think we can make that happen. So, at the end of it all, I'm obviously one of the things that we are facing in the community is a potential lull in organized play after Worlds, right? So,
well, the next one is Gamehole Con. Is that the one, or is it Con of the North? Because those are the ones that Jurch was talking about in Michigan and Wisconsin, I believe.
Right. There's one in Madison, Wisconsin coming up. That's in October. That's an Ultimate Championship in Madison.
Okay.
And then there was another one that he was talking about that one of the community members was TOing.
It's Gorman.
Gorman was TOing. That's right.
Gorman, if you're in here, go ahead and drop your...
Yeah, plug the event if
event.
You got it. If not, feel free to plug it on our Discord.
Yeah, absolutely. If you watch the VOD later, or anybody
knows which event I'm talking
tell
about.
Tell Gorman to shove it in the chat. Mendugu says Gamehole Con in Madison, so that's the one that...
Is that the Ultimate Championship at Gamehole Con? Or is that just a regular bronze event? Do you know, Madungu?
We'll see if he chimes in. But, yeah, so we got a couple, and then PAX in December, they said they're going to be at.
Yes, they're going to be at PAX. We are discussing PAX. We haven't decided whether we'll make that trip yet or not, but it's on our table.
Like, I want to.
Yeah.
But it's also in the winter north of the Mason-Dixon, I'm like...
Neil doesn't own a coat, y'all. He doesn't know anything about coats. He used to know about coats, but
we need more like Orlando events.
I agree. I'd come to Orlando in a heartbeat for an event.
Everybody can come stay at my house.
Maybe you should set that up. So Gamehole Con in Madison is an Ultimate Championship and a bronze sealed event. Oh, man.
There you go.
I'm going to have to seal this on Sunday.
Madison has to be like 8 hours from here.
It's 8.5 hours. Yeah, that's the problem with the sealed on Sunday is how do I get home? Cause,
by car.
Well, right, but if you play all day in a sealed event, it's a long drive home, 8.5 hours, right? So, and obviously,
we'll see if you know what the stupid airline I took this time is currently advertising Orlando to Lincoln flights for $49.
Oh well, I mean, you heard it here. He might ride with me again, folks. We'll see. I've also got a busy October.
I will come if Jurch provides me a coat.
You heard it here, Jurch. Get those coats ready. I don't know what size he is. You're gonna have to PM him. Okay.
Definitely bigger than you, Jurch.
No, I want to see the fat guy in a little coat.
You don't want to ruin Jurch's coat like that.
That's awesome. But yeah, and so Shufflebus is going to do a couple of things too. I had a conversation with Stoneblade at Gen Con, And if we can get it worked out, I'm going to try to get more regular scheduled sealed events going on for us.
Similar to what we did last time.
Right. I mean, I could do another one right now.
Potentially in league format rather than single day, but it will just depend on.
Yeah. We are going to launch a regular constructed league event here. I kind of want to just see if Stoneblade is going to make any announcements or changes before I start that.
We want to see if there's errata or bans or such before we fire off the rules of our league. But it'll be very soon, though.
Yeah, I would imagine that we'll be putting those rules up in the very near future here for a new league event. And then I think we'll start running some sealed events, even if they do overlap with our league events. So there will be times where we've got more than one tournament going as we move forward. Neil and I will have an announcement by next week's stream on the Shuffle Bus Invitational.
Right, the dates for that.
Yeah, so we're gonna
for anyone that's qualified. Currently, obviously, pay close attention. If you're qualified, eventually you'll get a personalized invite.
Yep.
But just to give everybody an idea of when it's going to be, we'll announce very soon. And obviously, there are a couple more qualifying chances yet.
Right.
Before then,
I think it's safe to say it'll be before PAX, but
yes,
I'm not sure we know which weekend yet on that list. Obviously, not the American holiday Thanksgiving weekend for any of you that are from overseas, but that gives us 3 weekends in November we could look at, and so we'll sort that out and get that on the books very soon. So if you're looking at your November calendars, just know that's when it's going to be. We'll have the unofficial date announced next week. So be ready for that. I will be working with Stoneblade to upload a silver event for that, so that it's actually a registered silver event. And then we will hand invite people to that, so it will not be open for general registration. So that will be an opportunity for those folks that do have silver decks to come in and play a silver event with a buy, and or I guess you could bring your gold deck if you want to into that sequence as well. I also hope to sometime in the near future know a little bit more about the reworked Renown system. Alex gave me a preview of it at Gencon. I can't talk about it right now, but I can tell you
as soon as we can give you full breakdown of the new Renown, we will.
Yeah, because that's something we're very curious about. But I'm overall, I can tell you, I'm very pleased with the way they're pushing the Renown changes. So
I wasn't there for that discussion.
Yeah, I know you weren't. I got a chance to see it after the sealed event because you guys were all at dinner. So. I'll be able to talk more about that Renown once Alex has put that out. But I don't think it's very far away. I think we're only a few weeks from getting the Renown rework as well. So
yeah, it didn't sound like they had much left to process there.
Yep. So very much, very much on the correct end of all that. So, I mean, I don't know if we have much else to unpack tonight. Obviously,
just we can talk about the cards.
You want to talk about the cards? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start with the Exalted Sunder then, Neil. I can't put the cards up on screen, so I will add these to the Shuffle Bus Discord.
Yeah, and you can check them out on the Stoneblade Discord as well.
Yeah, they're buried. It took me a little while to find them.
Yeah.
It was the post was from Lucas L. So if you go and search it up.
Right. So
you can search it in general on Stoneblade and find it there as well.
At the end of the storyline event, they had a nice little story blurb about essentially Sunder and Oros there battling Circe and succumbing to the power of the Forge or whatever.
Right.
So we have 2 previews from that are Forgeborn cards, but they use a transform mechanic, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is. There's Exalted Sunder. Now, this is essentially the way the story played out. Sunder and Oros became corrupted by the Blight, and as such, they have turned into these exalted versions of themselves. We don't know exactly how this plays out mechanically, but we have theories on it.
Right. We'll give you the theories after we talk about what the card actually does.
So Exalted Sunder's Cycle 2 ability is Elemental Frenzy. When this is transformed, and that is bolded.
Right, and it's not actually a Cycle 2 ability. it is
It's
where
just
the
a transformed ability.
It is where the Cycle 2 ability would be.
Correct.
But you can see that the Cycle 2 image is like blacked out by the blight.
Yep,
and
exactly.
It references the transform. So.
Yep. So it says when this is transformed, you may deal 5 damage to a creature. This ability on its surface is pretty good. I mean, it's not
very much
crazy.
in line with a Cycle 2 ability.
Right. And then we go to Fog of War, which is the Cycle 3 ability. Now, this does have a Cycle 3 symbol on it, so it looks like we'd get back to playing normal Solforge here once this happens. It says choose an enemy creature. If it battles another enemy creature, choose an enemy creature. It battles another enemy creature of your choice. So this is basically Vine Lash on a stick here.
It's like Turnabout.
Yeah, Turnabout's a better
because you don't have to pick your own guy.
You're right. That's
you
true.
just make 2 enemies fight.
Yeah,
it's easy to pick up that little 2-for-1 there.
You're right. And then the Cycle 4 version of that they showed us is called Shadowbound. It says when you play a spell this turn, deal 8 damage to an enemy creature and an enemy player. So this is the Gathering Storm kind of on crack, right? Like
yeah, it's just better than Gathering Storm.
Right. Yeah, I mean like by a pretty large
I guess I don't know what the Cycle 4 number for Gathering Storm is.
It's 9.
Okay, so it's not like it's not literally better than Gathering Storm. It's just mostly better than Gathering Storm.
Yeah, because
there's
you
like
hit a single creature, you're way ahead of the curve over Gathering Storm.
Well, it's just if you fire off 3 spells and you deal 24 and they're at 25, then Gathering Storm is better, right? Like
right.
It's a very simple math to figure out when it's better.
Right.
So like 97% of the time, this is going to be better than Gathering Storm, except when you literally kill them almost exact.
Yeah, makes sense. So then the other card we got was Exalted Oros, and his blighted Cycle 2, whatever you want to call it here, is called Blight of Solace, so it actually has blight in its name. And when this is transformed, you may give a creature +3 attack. You may give an enemy creature -3 health. This is a cool ability. A card that was kind of an MVP for me in my sealed events, and is going to have me reevaluating it a little bit, is Venom of Chalice. Or Chalice. Is that
Chalice
right?
of Venom Chalice.
Venom Chalice. Not Venom of Chalice. Venom Chalice. That really just turned out to be a removal spell.
It's good.
Yeah.
Like, this ability has become part of the green identity.
Yeah.
Though, in this case, it's a little different because it gives attack instead of life.
Like straight life. Yeah.
Because there's I don't know what the forge is called. Maybe it's acidic is the forge. That does, it's like deploy, do that.
Oh, they're correcting me. Gathering Storm is 8 at Cycle 4.
Okay.
So it's literally the same.
Is it I won't jump into the corner cases. It'll take too long. If it's not a May, there's some cases where it would be worse if you had to shoot a creature with it. Like if they had a shardback or something.
Sure.
It would be like there would be like some random 1% corner case that it's not better. But in any case, this ability of like essentially drain a stat has become a green ability, and I think that the forge is called acidic. There's like it's like a forge creature ability that's
I don't know that one by
that
off
like
the top of my head.
it essentially does the same thing as Venom Chalice.
Have
It's
not
on a
seen that one
deploy.
very often.
Somebody can correct me if they want in chat, but I think it's a fine ability.
The Cycle
very
3,
much on par with a Cycle 1 forge ability.
For sure. The Cycle 3 ability is Darkwood Armor. It says give up to 2 of your creatures 8 armor this turn. This turn, so that's this turn back to back. That's tough to say. When either of those creatures are dealt damage, it gets that much attack.
Ben says that the forge I'm thinking of is toxic.
Okay.
Not acidic. But yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate that. So this is Oros already has an ability that gives 2 creatures 8 armor. So this is just an upgraded version of that because now those creatures get plus attack when they take any damage. And for anybody that doesn't know the rules, you still take damage if armor absorbs damage. So if an opponent hits one of these creatures for 8,
the armor does not prevent damage.
Right, it does not. So the creature would still plus 8 even though it would take no damage against its health. So pretty cool ability. Definitely in line with Oros's other ability, and then slightly better.
I think it's a little weak compared to some Cycle 3 Forgeborn abilities.
Sure.
But it is better than Darkwood Armor or whatever the regular version is.
I don't remember what that one's called. I should know it, but I don't remember it.
Well, it's because it's not that impactful.
Right.
It's good.
And so then his Cycle 4 ability is called Unnatural Disaster, and it says give a creature plus 10 attack this turn. It gets Breakthrough. Set the opposing creature's health to 1. This is cool.
I mean, that's like a game winner, right?
Right. I mean, it's definitely in the realm of like you can't put any creature in front of this giant Breakthrough creature now, right? So like
you just like essentially the turn that you're about to die to Oros in Cycle 4, if they have this up, like you essentially can't block it, right? Like you have to play in a way that like kills it or moves it or whatever.
Right. But the fact that it can give any creature the Breakthrough is pretty good, right? Like so.
Yeah, I mean Nova has an ability very similar to this, and it's really, really good. The one that like it just essentially polymorphs a guy.
Right.
At Cycle 4 gives the creature fighting at Breakthrough, but doesn't give plus attack. So this doesn't save your guy if they're going to trade, because it doesn't actually change the attack of the creature that it's fighting, but it does give you just a massive smash
Bark
through.
Skin is the one Rusty added in there.
Yeah.
So I think all of these abilities are cool because I think they represent an escalation of the Forgeborn, which shows an evolution in the power of the Forgeborn from a lore and story perspective.
I mean, the Oros one specifically, I don't think is like any more powerful than a regular Forgeborn.
Right.
It is good.
Yeah.
And the Cycle 4 ability is really good, but all the Cycle 4 abilities are nutso, right? Very few of them are not super good.
So now that we've gone over the abilities, let's talk theories, Neil, because you and I have spent some time on this. Eli was part of it when we talked about it, and obviously there's a transform mechanic here.
Right. So we know that this has to be another card that turns into this because of the wording.
Right.
There's one instance of this in the game that exists already, which is Muthral, that essentially, like, I mean, there are things in the game that are spells or other permanents that flip into other permanents. Specifically, Muthral is the case because it has a text that says, like, when this is transformed, do X. It's actually templated slightly different than the Forgeborns, which I think is weird, because Muthral refers to itself in the first person. It uses its own name, whereas the Forgeborns say this.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be slightly different, but I think it's probably just like that's just kind of a templating decision based on how much space on the card the name of the card takes up.
So on the Exalt side of Muthral, it's called Impending Doom, and it says at the start of the turn, if this is the 4th deck cycle, transform this and put it into one of your empty lanes. And then it says when Muthral is transformed, destroy all other creatures, then destroy all Exalts. So our theory is that the back half of these Forgeborns is actually an Exalt.
That's right. So the theory that we're currently running on is that the Oros and the Sunder are actually the backside of the actual card.
Right.
Which could be, I mean, in a sealed pack of Solforge, there is a 2-sided card slot, right? Mm-hmm. It's a Soulmind slot or the token. So I believe that it will be an Exalt that is put into play via, whatever card is attached to that from your base 10, which could be a creature, a spell, or whatever. And it'll say like, put X thing into play. It'll have an adjacent ability on it, because a lot of them do. It'll be something like the level 1 just puts it into play. The level 2 is like deal 3 damage, put it into play, and then or like deal 8. The last one's deal 8 damage, put into play.
Right.
And the Exalt itself will say something like it'll have a requirement gate that is somehow linked to the spell that made it, or its own ability, whatever it is. So they won't make a card that's useless, right? It won't be a card that is literally just like only make this thing this hoop you have to jump to make Sunder. it'll be like deal 3 damage, and then the Sunder Exalt will say like, if you dealt 6 non-combat damage this turn, transform this.
Yeah.
And then when it transforms, obviously you would place it over your current Forgeborn and resolve the transform ability.
Yeah, I could see it a lot like how Fireheart Idol builds up triggers for certain things, and then once you have enough counters, and
I mean, the speculation on how you would actually flip it is kind of out there right now because we just have no idea.
Right.
The only reason I use that analogy is because most of the ones that exist now are tied in that fashion where, like, if they flip, it's due to an ability that helps you get there.
Right.
Because, like, Shard King is like,
I could also see
you have to get a giant guy, but he pumps the power of your guys,
Right.
that kind of thing.
I could also just see it as being a spell in your deck or an exalt in your deck that you have to play it on time. So like it's possible that you could not exalt your Sunder in a given game because you have this card in your deck that has a 1, 2, and 3 level on it, and if you play the 1 in cycle 1, then it doesn't trigger till cycle 2 or whatever. So like there's a potential gameplay component there where, like, do you take an action to set up your Exalted Sunder in cycle 1, or do you try to gamble that you would get it in cycle 2 when you could trigger it immediately? Like, I could see some of that sort of thing happening too.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree that the card would have some sort of text on it that matters, but like
the actual gate that you have to unlock to flip it, I think we're a long ways from knowing.
Sure.
Just because it could literally be anything. And they don't tend to make cards that do nothing as a pure investment. Like,
Right.
it's always like a small amount of value plus the investment card.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I don't know.
Excuse me. I do think that it's a possibility. Like, I mean, obviously we don't know, and Ben is adding, I could also see it being some sort of activation on an exalt that gives you a penalty for future reward. Seems that on theme to the storyline mechanics we have seen with Temptation and Corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, very possible that it could be thematically tied to the story. Although I'm not. Do we have examples in the game? At least I'm not aware of any. But do we have any examples in the game where the storyline has driven actual card mechanics up to this point?
I don't even know what happened in the future.
That's why I'm asking, because I don't know, and that's why I'm asking. So this is really going out to chat, and if we have, then that seems like a pretty reasonable potential extrapolation.
Yeah. So this card was designed prior to the storyline, right? And they probably designed one for all the Forgeborns. But that being the case, the mechanic that does it was also designed prior to the storyline. That doesn't mean that the, like, pay power for like give up something for power kind of theme isn't there, but it to me, the thing that I'm very sure of is that this card will take the 2-sided card slot in the pack, and another card in the 10 cards will put it into play with the not Forgeborn side up.
Seems to make sense.
Because if it's not like that, that means that they're altering the structure of the decks that they print.
It could potentially be in the minion slot too if it's something directly on the Forgeborn card.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It is in the minion slot. Like,
yeah, but I'm just saying, like, the Forgeborn card itself could actually trigger this as well. So, like, just the regular Sunder could also be the trigger point. I'm not saying that it is, but it is theoretically possible. Ben saying, no, not yet, but set 1 and 2 were in the can before the Blight became a theme back in PAX U. So, I mean, it's possible. I'm not taking that away because, I mean, obviously, if they do want to lean harder into the story, card-driven mechanics around the story have value in that lean, right? So it's very possible that this could be where we're headed. Obviously, that's the whole point of this spoiler, right?
And
it's just to get us talking about the what ifs.
As we get more cards in the set, we'll have a better idea of set mechanics.
Yeah.
And go from there. Because I would say that the the other side of these will be spoiled soon because that's like low-hanging fruit for them to just release.
Right.
So
unless it gives away too much of how the set operates.
yeah, I mean, we should have the entirety of the set before the set releases. Like, that's what happened with set 2. Whether it was through data mining or whatever, but we did have it. So
yeah, I mean, I just I don't know the answer. Obviously, nobody does. That's the whole point of this. But I think, you know, all of our assumptions are based on existing mechanics, right?
Right.
And
Most of my assumptions are based upon how the pack is constructed for sale, because I don't think that they want to alter their printing scheme in order to make this work, which they could, because obviously this is procedurally generated, so their printer is set up to print anything kind of.
Right.
But having already, like, we know that transform refers to a two-sided card.
Right.
That's a like rules definition in the comprehensive rules. And we know that the packs come with one two-sided card slot that currently contains either a minion or a soulbind card that's attached to another card in the 10. So
it's gonna be a trifold card, Neil.
yeah, I hope so. Man,
Yeah.
I like the it went off the rails a little bit, but the 3-sided cards and Transformers were cool.
Yeah, no, I the combiners were pretty neat as a mechanical design. So let's pivot to the card that Lucas and Fletcher
if anyone
spoiled.
is still here from the Stoneblade stream, they saw this on the Stoneblade stream.
Yep.
We posted in the Discord.
Just about an hour ago, Lucas and Fletcher on the Stoneblade stream, who spent a better part of an hour showcasing the app and answering
Which
questions
looks
about
great,
the
by
app.
the way.
Yeah, I think the app is fantastic. Obviously, lots of small, what I call QOL, quality of life improvements can exist inside there, I think. And that's what the beta will really flesh out.
And I had seen it a couple months ago, and the amount of polish that has been added in that time is immense.
Sure.
Like, I'm very impressed with the amount of work they put into it, even in the short months since the last time I saw it.
So we got a new card from them.
One new spoiler from them.
Right. So Windweaver Azir, and it is in our Discord, Solforge Fusion general chat. So if you haven't seen this card yet, you can go to our Discord and see it. The Windweaver Azir says activate. I'm reading level 1. Activate. Choose another level 1 creature. Ready or exhaust that creature. You can only use this ability once per turn, and has a stat line of 3 power and 7 health. The level 2 version of it has the same ability, but you can choose a level 1 or level 2 creature, and it's a 5/10. And the level 3 ability lets you choose any creature, and is a 9/15. So stat line very similar. This is a creature mage, so it is another mage, and this stat line is very similar to the Dark Art Sorcerer, which we know can be rather challenging to remove. One of the things that's kind of interesting about this is I do believe this steps above the suppressing Sonic Bursts of blue, which is an answer to Dark Art, because I think Dark Art at its final level is an 8, and this is a 9, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know what the gates are on suppressing, so I can't tell you.
I'll give me just a second. I'll look it up.
So the card is worded in a way that it's no fun.
Okay.
I don't know who is talking. I don't know if it was Godges or Weekend that was in there, like, trying to figure out how you could loop it.
Yeah, it's the suppressing at level 3 is 8 or less.
What is it? What is at the other levels?
It is 3, 5, and then 8. So
does it hit it at all?
It hits the level 1 and level 2 fine, but it does not hit the level 3.
Well, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, that's still a good answer to it. So it's worded in a way that you're not allowed to abuse it, which is sad. But it is still like a fine guy. It has reasonable stats. It's back-ended, so you have to have a deck that, like, is okay not having a great attacker. But it is a mage, which is like the best tribe in red.
Right.
Currently. And it has an ability that if it has a target, it's insane. Right? Like,
yeah. I mean, obviously, there's still lots of power to be had in something like a Blight Witch here. There's lots of power to be had in an Allomancer here. I mean, these. We're talking about your creatures, right? But you also have the counterplay on the opposite side of being able to stop your opponent's Allomancer, stop your opponent's.
Right.
White
If you're
Witch.
first and you shut off one of their guys of the ones that we named, it's still really good.
Yeah.
Like
extremely good.
it's. I mean, if you have a good activation of it, it's worth a card on either end. It also is like the only way. Well, not literally the only way, but one of very few ways that gives you some control over the state of your opponent's creatures for things like the Noxious Forge ability. And I think Noxious is the only one right now because I tried searching in card database for things that cared about Exhausted.
So another interesting little thing about this card that I don't think anybody really caught on stream, it looks like this is a fused creature. It doesn't look like it's a named creature.
I mean, it's somebody said that on stream, but this is a non-forge.
It's a non-forged creature.
It's a non-forge. The set symbol on the set is like an eye.
Okay.
And this one does not have a border. So that's what the regular set symbol looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, Lucas clarified that on the stream.
I was curious if anybody talked about that.
I thought the same thing.
I was like, man, it was when we were just...
Good call out, Newt. He says Spirit Charm cares about Exhaust because it does like one of the modes of Spirit Charm is deal damage to Exhaust.
Well, the other card that I have in a deck that was in my sealed deck that actually got triggered a couple of times that was pretty good was Noxious Bartok.
Right. So all the Noxious Forges care about it.
Right. So Noxious, if you have Noxious decks like this deck, this deck is or this Windweaver as a pairing with it might not be bad.
I mean, this is a card that is. I mean, I can't think of anything better to do with it than untapping your level 3 Necromancer.
Right.
Which is like the best thing. But all those other things that were named are good, you know. Drix, Allomancer, Blight Witch.
It's probably pretty good.
Summoner.
It's probably pretty good with level 3 my brain stopped working. Shardplate Behemoth? No. What is the one
That's
that makes
fine.
the 8/8?
It's fine with Shardplate, but sorry,
8/8
Shard back.
The 8/8 Oakfather minion guy. Who am I thinking of? Brain's not working. Chat.
That taps to make an Oakfather?
Yeah, his level 3 ability is tap make an Oakfather.
Oh, I don't know. Is it
what's the one that you have to sacrifice?
Is it Splicer?
Splicer, Shroudthorn Splicer.
Oh,
pretty
I didn't know
sure-
that was what the level 3 did.
I'm pretty sure the level 3 is just tap make an
So-
Oakfather.
This is a card that like by itself does nothing besides be kind of like a back-ended dude. But
No, it's a deploy. I'm sorry.
okay, I thought that was a little like obviously the things that you say it's good with, it is obviously good with, right? Like there's plenty list of things that say activate, do something.
Right.
Because of the way it's worded, you can't ever like do anything stupid with it.
Right.
Because you can't use it more than once.
It's the Relentless Wanderers.
Just Wanderers. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew there was one that did it. I was just trying to remember which one did it because I have it in my
Yeah.
green half, and I was like, I have both of those cards in my green half. And
Right. But again, like
thank you, Ben. You got
it's
there before me.
easy to think of. It's easy to think of anything that like taps to do something good, and you're like, I can do it again, and that's fine.
Right.
But really, this feels like a support card to me. So it's not like I'm trying to think of a half that you would have that you'd be like, man, this would be so great if I had a wind thing or Azir. It's more like if you have a couple of them, like you have a purple half that has a Necromancer and a Blight Witch, or a Summoner and a Blight Witch, and you have a red half that has a reasonable mage synergy that also happens to have this in it. Like that's the kind of deck it shines in. It's not like an archetype definer.
Sure, right.
Unless we really get something in set 3 that is absolutely bonkers with it.
Right.
Because even like the best things that we've been naming, like those things are so good that saying you need a wind Azir to make them good is just not true. Like they're great on their own, and it's fine if you redo it.
It gives. Is there another red card that allows you to unexhaust, like to ready one of your own creatures?
Yes. It is a spell, and it gives attack and mobility, and readies a creature.
Well, it's because of the mobility, right? So you have to be able to, in order to be able to move it, it has to be available. That's why it readies it.
Oh, well, that's the only red card that
What is that one?
somebody tell me what that spell is I just named.
Staff of Varus.
No, not Staff of Varus.
Staff of Val. Fletcher has also clarified that reanimating it doesn't work either.
That seems weird to me. I need to know more about that. Everflame Aura, that's what it is.
There it is, yep.
That seems weird to me. I need to read up on the rules on reanimate because I know it's been changed a couple times.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see how that works out overall.
There's it would be difficult. Like, say that it did work that way and you could go crazy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is the kind of creature you want to spoil first, right? Because
it's fun.
Yep.
It has
huge ceiling opportunities potentially.
It just has a lot of people like to take game actions, right? So this guarantees you 3 additional game actions because it assumes that you have a creature in play to take 1 game action, then you get to activate it to untap, and then you get to take that game action again. People just like to do things, right? They like to they like to have agency, which may or may not be great totally for the game in general if it gets real fiddly, but at this point it's not. At least not in game mechanics. So you're right. I think it's good. It's definitely a fun card. It has reasonable stats. It is a mage. It has a lot of things going for it that.
So Ben's saying just pair it with Mantis because we know that's fair. So one of the things that's interesting with Mantis is, obviously, the biggest offenders of Mantis in my mind are things like Army Commander and Darkforged Drain, which we know are very good with Mantis and Forge Seal decks in general. The red side, generally speaking, doesn't necessarily have great potential creatures.
Oh, I think it does.
You think so?
Yeah,
name one.
Well, Shardback, Furious Shardback.
Is Furious Shardback actually good with a Darkforged Drain?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking about cards that were good with Azir.
No. I'm talking about because a lot of people are talking about Mantis being maybe one of the best cards for Azir to hit when we were Azir to hit, and I'm thinking more holistically about these sort of top tier Darkforged Drain decks that we know about. I mean, looking at Greg's deck in particular, my deck in particular. Both of those Darkforged Drain decks don't have a ton of activates in them in the first place, meaning that the creature itself isn't activated outside of Mantis. So
right. I mean, I don't think that this is a good the Darkforged Drain deck is a very specific archetype.
Sure.
And while red has some breakthrough creatures, you really want the purple half, both because it tends to have better synergy with the cards that you want in your green half through the life gain part, and also it has stealth creatures,
right,
which is you already have breakthrough covered in the green half,
right,
so you want the stealth because you're trying to make a big giant guy that's not blockable.
Right.
But elsewise, if all you're asking about is what would a red-green Mantis deck look like, well, there's a ton of good green Forgeborn abilities that aren't Darkforged Drain, right? The Nova give +2/+2 to everybody. Nova Make 2 Wisps is less good, but it is good.
Right.
Nova Polymorpha guy is good.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of what the Oros ones are. Most of those are not good. They're fine, but they're not crazy.
Right. I mean, Oros really, honestly, is really just Darkforged Drain is
his competitive one.
Yeah, his real ability.
His other abilities are fine.
Yeah.
They're just not as enticing as this. If you're talking about red, then Stimbolt is good. Play a free spell.
Rusty adding in. We're talking now about some potential red spells. Red spells can fill the discard while keeping the board clear for a big Darkforged Drain. That's Dean chiming in. Ben answering red is pretty good at cycling spells and filling the banish pile for what it's worth. Rusty adds, so is Spite Maiden and Blight Witch. We have sparked a chat here.
Yeah.
Ben says, I think that Azir will excel with Mantis because you can play it in a turn before you draw the Mantis. Doesn't have to be the same hand like Lead the Charge does. Carbonu says Nathis' deck is a good example of Mantis abuse because it loops cards using Necromancer and the like. He played a silly deck that stacked Gathering Storm as well. So Cardboard, I agree with you, but that means if you're playing the Necromancer, we'd have to assume then that in order to get Windweaver Aesir, you're either getting a Betrayer Windweaver Aesir or you're getting a Betrayer Necromancer on the red half to be able to do this.
If the goal is to talk about a Windweaver Aesir Mantis deck, like, you're not going to go real baddie,
right?
But you're just going to go value-y because to the points made there in chat, like, Windweaver is way better than Lead the Charge, right?
Yeah.
One, it has a body attached to it, so you're not getting nothing when it's not good,
right?
Which is Lead the Charge is really bad when it's not good,
right?
And you also, to their point, you can save it so you can put it into play. It's real sticky because it has a big butt,
right?
And so you get to kind of save it for then, and then you really get extra cards out of it.
Right.
If you if you play it one turn, then next turn you play Mantis, all of a sudden you're +2 cards because the Mantis plays it, and then it plays it again off the Aesir.
Right.
And the red Forged ones also have just fine value abilities because Stimbolt is good, Frostblast is good, Korok has like deal damage to 2 creatures. Like, if you want to start talking about like going real nutty, like, you can double up on Gatherstorm, which is tough to do because we're talking about like I play like cycle 2, turn 1, I play a card and a Windweaver. Then we go to cycle 2, turn 2, I play a Mantis, activate, Windweaver, activate, and then like hopefully I play 2 spells as my like remaining card. And then obviously if that had happened, you get like let's say you play a Flame Jet and a regular spell, you have 6 triggers from Gatherstorm in that case. But like now we're starting to talk about the like unreasonable
Magical Christmas Land.
Yeah.
We've entered Magical Christmas Land over here, folks, and while we love talking about Magical Christmas Land, obviously what we're more interested in is consistency and consistent plays. And I do think that Aesir gives you more consistency and a little bit of redundancy on things like Mantis, no doubt. But
I think it's just in general, if we're not talking about like the top 5% of deck rolls, it is at its best in red purple mages, right?
Correct.
Because all the good purple mages have the activate abilities.
Right.
You get a mage out of the Aesir, and then just whatever other mage synergies you have.
It might be good with blue mages too, though. I mean, because you got
Allomancer is the one that comes to mind, obviously.
But you got Hindermine as well, which is a removal. Palladium Hindermine.
I don't know what that is. Oh,
when you tap, it's the destroy.
Oh, that's like you destroy the smallest thing.
Smallest creature you have, yeah.
That's a little dicey because the power on the Aesir is kind of small. So like,
it's still bigger than the Hindermine for now, but
yeah, I mean, the Hindermind is another good one.
Yeah,
but
so I mean, you've also got Epoch Hawk, right? Epoch Hawk is activate swap lanes. So there's some value there.
Yeah, but now we're just back to naming cards with good activate abilities, and there's that in every color.
Right.
I'm just saying I think it's best place in reasonable decks is purple red mages because it just happens to lie that way. Most of the activate guys in blue are actually scientists.
Sam going to give me nightmares. Says he did see a Betrayer Forge Seal deck recently that had a perfect Cersei. That's scary.
So it's a purple Forge Seal with a good Cersei is what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Forge Seal is not a good card. Like, it's just a card that like doesn't play by the rules, so sometimes it doesn't play by the rules.
Right.
In general, like, you can't just like have a Forge Seal and be happy with it.
Right.
Because the Forgeborn abilities are designed in a way that they're supposed to be like worth slightly less than a card, and Forge Seal by itself is essentially just a card with that text.
Right.
But as soon as you start breaking it, like breaking the rules a little bit with like an untap guy or like Dark Forge Drain, then all of a sudden the thing is just bonkers.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, obviously, there's some things. Justin Gary adding here, Winter is leaving in the Hype Train channel of the Stoneblade Discord since our stream shut down. So the set is called The Last Winter. I'm not sure if we knew that officially before today.
They said something about it at Gencon.
Bambi adding, we know what you did last winter.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good, yeah. So then Christy's adding, spring coming with flying creatures. Bambi adding Blizzard Shaman plus Wind Reaver Ezir equals air conditioning for all. So folks are having fun with this, but I mean, obviously on the the more serious note here, I think this is a very well positioned first spoiler from Stoneblade. I think that it gives us more questions than answers again, right? Which is what you want.
It's just a fun card that's not going to break anything.
Right.
I mean, maybe it will, but because they worded it, use it only once a turn, it would be very difficult.
It's less likely to break things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, obviously, they have to be cautious with these effects.
It is printed in the most cautious way possible.
Yeah.
Because it says only once per turn. It's also level gated.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't think they want more Necromancer shenanigans, right? Like, in general.
I mean, they either don't know or don't care about that because they printed like the prepared
right
adjective,
but
I think which is a million jillion cards.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So we did have a discussion planned. I don't think we're going to get into it tonight, but that was going to be talking about sort of the spirit of Solforge. The idea being to discuss it, like what we as a community think Solforge is supposed to be. I think we'll table that conversation for a future stream because I'd like to.
We definitely don't have the time tonight
to unpack it, and I think that there were some statistics that I got for this. And I'm going to put them in your brain so that you know them as well as we move forward. I was very curious, and I want to give a big shout out to ML Bambi on the Discord for helping me through this today because we were planning to talk about it tonight, but we didn't. And basically, one of the things was we were going to discuss rarities. What I mean by rarities is the likelihood of something rolling in a deck. As a baseline, not a like. Yes, there's dependencies from this creature, so it would change its
right. It's simply odds for like the color of the set symbol.
Correct. So I started off this conversation by asking what percentage of decks could roll a Furious Shardback, because this is a common Forge ability.
It's a common.
It's a common, right? Exactly. And so Bambi came back to me and said that 1.5% of set 2 decks could roll a common. He did not. He said that the percentage Shardbacks as a whole are 24%. So that means that the common creature
that's just a common.
Yeah, would show up in 24% of decks, 1 in 4, roughly. But the Furious modifier lowers that percentage down to 1.5%.
Right.
Which is obviously,
and that's really 1 in 4 red decks.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So if you open a display of red decks, which is 4 booster kits, you're fairly likely to pull a Shardback.
One Shardback of non-specific Forge.
Correct. Right. But to get the Furious version, it's very low, 1.5%.
You need to open like 25 displays.
Correct. Roughly. And so then the next question I came up with was, how often could a Soulbind show up? So how many decks does a Soulbind show up, i.e. a Nova Elementalist?
But a non-specific one. Right.
This is just a Soulbind in general.
A deck can have a Soulbind in the double-faced card slot.
Right. Soulbinds will show up in about 4%.
Is it really that low?
That's what it says. About 4%, but some require other things in the deck, bringing them down a bit. General's Wrath is at 4%.
Interesting.
But he adds in parentheses, and I don't understand what this means. It says, specifically Nova, is the question I asked, was 3.8% of the time because Nova requires another elemental. So it gets bumped down just a little bit over...
but General's Wrath requires another zombie.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, he does.
Okay, but he says that's at 4%, so I'm not sure what that means. It says Soulbind should be about 4%, parentheses, 20% of decks, 5 types. I don't know, but some require other things in the deck to bring them
Oh,
down.
okay. So he's taking into account an individual one you're looking for, because he's saying 1 in 5 has a Soulbind,
Sure.
not caring which one. Then, because if you name one you're looking for, then it's cut in 5 again.
Sure.
Because for every color, there's 5
Right.
different ones.
So I then Casey Kidd joined in, and he was asking about Krogius, and just regular rares like a Krogius are 1 in 8. So that's roughly 16%.
Is that's just to get a yellow set symbol on any particular slot out of the 10?
Correct.
Okay. And then obviously you then multiply that by like 1 over the number of
Different ones.
different
that can
available
roll
for
in
that color. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So ultimately, he said about 1 in 8 are rares, and so then to kind of continue that conversation. Obviously, like there are creatures that can roll 0, which is like Chaining Rex, for example, can't exist because there's no synergy, I guess, available in it somehow.
Interesting.
I'm not
Chaining Rex would require a spell and a dinosaur.
sure. Right.
Can it just not ask for 2 things?
I don't know. It says here, rare things are basically just half as common as commons. Combat shardbacks are at 1.5%, abetting shardbacks are 0.8%, combat breakers are 0.82%, abetting breakers are 0.4%. Those are a bit more than half, but that's probably due to requirements of some other rare options, such as Chaining Adept. I picked options without requirements. Combat Adept, 0.69%, Chaining Shardback, 0.65%, Chaining Adept, 0.35%, Chaining Rex is at 0%, so it makes a poor example. That's what he said. So I don't know if I necessarily...
Oh, so Chaining Rex could exist. It just asks for too many things.
Right.
So right now, based on the numbers we have, it's statistically 0. It's probably not actually 0.
Right. So then, like, obviously there's betrayers, and betrayers come in and change the math on this a little bit. But
then, I mean, as we get down to this, like, betrayer level, we're essentially working with numbers where it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, factoring, if you're trying to figure out, like, how likely it is that you get a Krogius in your pile.
Right.
You're not going to take the time to, like, say, well, slot 10 could be a betrayer,
So, I mean, in theory, Krogius, and Bambi did add that for some reason Krogius specifically is a little more likely in set 2 green decks.
I mean, there's a couple things there, and I bet I know what it is, actually. There are more things in set 2 that ask for a plant.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Plant synergy.
So that's probably what it is.
Yep.
Because it is a plant.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Sower asks for a plant.
Right.
And Heart Tree, or not Heart Tree, whatever the Soulbind is, tree.
The Nauda.
Yeah, that says something about plants. So probably because I don't know if there's a card in set 1 that cares about plants.
I can't think of one, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
Right.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like, it was an interesting take, and the numbers are good to know.
I would be interested in how many green rares there are, and I would also be interested in knowing. So, we say that any particular slot is 1 in 8 to be a rare.
Yeah.
Is that the same for the noun part of a forge as it is for an unforged? Like, if you take away the adjective modifier and you just say like, is bear the same rare? Or I guess bear's a common. It would have to be a rare green forge. So is sower the same chance as Krogius or like Wanderers or something?
I don't think so, based on what he's saying.
It would be weird that would be the case, but I mean, I don't know for sure.
So I can't say that for sure. I don't know where these numbers are generated from the back end, but
I got a lot of stupid research to do once I get back home on my computer for all kinds of stuff. So I would be interested in talking to him about that too.
Yeah, I would say reach out to Vanby and get some clarification, because I think one of the things we're going to talk about in future pod is the spirit of Solforge,
right? Or potentially a video.
Yeah, and these numbers matter for that, right?
Yep.
So I think like it's an interesting discussion, because I don't think we value when we look at decks on the secondhand market, we tend to value these non-forged creatures higher. They tend to generate more revenue. So I'm looking specifically at like the Nova Elementalist and like Elementalist Ritual, for example. Those are just, I mean, in theory, they're 1 and 8 for those slots, right? So,
well, the Nova is not. The Nova is different because it's a soul bind.
Sure. Yeah, it's 4%. You're right.
Right. But you're right. So the reason that is because, like, essentially for every card, we have some idea how good it is, right?
Sure.
And it's just law of large numbers. Like, if we saw a bunch of Furious Shardbacks, like, we know how to evaluate them. But it's just like, if you're looking at cards on eBay or through somebody's trade list or whatever, you're much more likely to find a Krogius or an Elementalist Ritual or a Blight Witch, one of those things, than you are any particular forge you're looking for, right? Because, like, when I go through Grey Viking, I search for Shardback just to see what's out there. But, you never find it, because the value of the forged creatures, there's two kinds.
Right.
There's kinds where the noun matters. There's kinds where the forge matters. And then there's even rarer, the third kind is where both.
Right.
So you just we don't have the large number of decks yet that people are interacting with those at the same numbers as they're interacting with just a Krogius, right?
Right. And so that's where, because I said to you, like, and we saw this in the storyline event where a Shardback deck, went undefeated, right? There was no Nova in that deck. It was just a Shardback deck. And Furious Shardback deck, in fact, was one of
it was double Shardback, wasn't it? One was Furious and one was Betrayer, something else.
Yeah.
Because you can't betray a Furious.
Right. So it was a double Shardback deck. But that deck went undefeated as well next to Greg's, Darkforge Drain Oros deck. So obviously,
I would have been interested to see that matchup.
They never played.
Right, I know.
Yeah. I would have definitely loved to see it.
It just because, while Furious Shardback is extremely good and oppressive, I'm not sure that Darkforge Drain cares about it at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So that's what I said earlier in the stream when we talked about the Gencon recap a little bit. I said I wish we would have gotten a chance to see these two decks face off, because it would have just been I would have been curious to see the outcome. But I had mentioned to you at Gencon during the weekend, I'm like, I really thought we would see potentially a Furious Shardback deck at top tables, even at Worlds. Like a potential top 8 Furious Shardback list.
They're just so rare.
Well, that's where I'm leading with this, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm leading with this is that at the end of this all, we're trying to.
Man, Rusty is telling me that Stevens he only has one, so it wasn't the double one.
Okay.
So, but it really is, like, after Indy, the first Indy you see, right? There were a bunch of Novas there, and none of them did real great.
Right.
Well, it's just like law of numbers, right? Where at that time, only a small amount of set 2 had been opened. It was only released a week prior, right?
Furious Shardback got 5th. No,
and
didn't Steven have a Furious Shardback in his list at the storyline event that got 2nd? Or are you talking about at Worlds? Again, I don't have the deck analysis done yet, so it's possible that I missed a Furious Shardback at Worlds, but just curious about it.
I honestly haven't looked at any of the deck lists yet. But so between UC Indy and now, we've had a ton of product open.
Right.
And the Nova decks are way better than they were at Indy.
Right.
So the Shardback decks are going to follow that same curve.
Well, that's
it's
what
just
I
going
mean.
to take longer because they're 4 times rarer than the Nova is even.
Yeah. So, Sealed Trey had a Furious Shardback and Sealed. I thought he just had a regular Shardback, like a different Shardback. I didn't think he had the Furious. I could be wrong. Again, I played Trey in the Sealed. It's one of. Did I play Trey in the Sealed? No, I played Trey in the story. I'm getting my tournaments mixed up. I played Trey in the storyline event, and he was not playing Furious Shardback in the storyline. Okay, so. Yeah, that's where I'm leading with it, right? Like we're talking about, we've talked about Rumble Heart and how strong it is. I do think well-rolled Furious Shardback decks, while rarer, may be potentially more impressive and more powerful than even the Rumble Heart is.
Well,
it's just not as accessible.
It's definitely not better than Rumble Heart. Like it just never will be.
Fact?
Yes.
How?
Because I'm brilliant.
Well, I don't know if that's true.
I mean, it affects the game in more ways than Shardback does.
Sure.
Shardback only beats creature decks.
Sure.
Rumble Heart has the potential to beat every deck.
Okay.
Like there will be decks that are like burn decks or shambler type decks
Sure.
that just like don't care so much about Shardback. And that's not to say that Shardback isn't insane against other creature decks, because it is.
Right.
And the wider you go, the more
I imagine
like,
you open a
craft on
Furious
by it, you will.
Shardback, and if you open a Furious Shardback and Sealed, you're probably pretty well off.
Oh yeah, in
races.
Sealed it has to be bonkers.
Even if you don't have reliable ways to trigger it.
because
it's
most
probably
of
still
Sealed
pretty good.
is very creature oriented.
Right.
So, but I mean, Nova is like controversial because it's a problem, right?
Right.
Like it literally is good against every kind of deck, and it's not interactable by like almost anything. Shardback is very good against like 50% of decks.
Right.
To like very, very good against 50% of decks. It's also very interactable.
Where it's a 1.5% roll. Sorry. Where it's a 1.5% roll at a tournament like Gencon Sealed, which was 43 players, it's still not likely to occur. Like it did.
You're like 50-50 to have one,
Yeah,
roughly.
So, I mean, it's interesting.
But if it's a constructed tournament, you're way better than 50-50 to have one.
Right.
Because we're not talking about just sheer number of players. We're talking about like number of decks opened by players that care about worlds.
Correct.
And I'm sure that most people there like have access to one in one way or another.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I am very curious to see. We've got this Rumble Heart thing, right, that's going on, and obviously we have the Krogius thing that's going on. Although I don't think Nathas's deck cared about Krogius all that much, but that's neither here nor there. There was another top 8 deck that did Weekend's deck had a Krogius in it, and I think that deck cared a lot more about Krogius than.
I didn't see Weekend's list.
Yeah, we watched it.
We did?
Yeah, it was in the the semifinals. It'll be on the semifinal match.
Okay.
It's Nathas and Weekend.
I'll go watch it again when you upload it.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, I do think that obviously those two archetypes. Again, I don't know. Those two types of decks are cemented at top levels, but I'm not sure that there's. I think there's room for another deck or two to still sneak into this potentially, and I think the next best thing's got to be. Hey Dean, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it, man. We'll definitely we're wrapping up here soon, anyways. But appreciate you being here and being part of the chat. Thanks for stopping in. I do think that there's room for a couple of decks. I mean, Darkforge Drain could potentially make its way into this. Potentially, I mean, I'm not saying it can yet.
I think Darkforge Drain is the best deck.
That's interesting that you say that. I'm not sure I'm convinced of that yet. But
it's just.
I mean, and Casey Kidd, I mean, Ryan and I talked about it a lot, right, over the weekend, and he told me that in his testing that the Elementalist is still, the Rumble Heart still a potential issue for him. So as long as Rumble Heart is so...
That Greg was saying that?
Yeah. Was it Greg or Ryan?
Greg played Darkforge Drain.
Yeah, but I think Ryan has played some of it too, and he was, I think just in testing, they have seen Rumble Heart be an issue for it.
Like, Rumble is dumb, right? Like, it it's good against everything.
Rusty adding that it's just really hard to open good decks that can win consistently without the good finishers. For sure. I mean, that's what Darkforge Drain does. Darkforge Drain allows any card in your deck that has Breakthrough or Stealth to become a Krogius for the turn you need it to become a Krogius to win.
It's just kind of like the best like actual combo win that we have.
Right.
Like you can call Darkheart plus Nova Elementalist a combo in that it is 2 cards that you combine.
Right.
But it's not the same kind of thing, right? Like that's just a synergy, and the deck operates on a card advantage engine that's based on that. When I'm talking about a combo deck, I mean like a deck that does one thing and you die from it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the point, right? And so, like, the games I won with my Darkforge Drain deck on the Storyline event, well, in 4 of my 5 games, I had one non-game where my deck just sort of, I mean, shit the bed is for the lack of a better term. But in all of those games, I had Oak Fathers that were over 50 attack.
Yeah.
You know?
It's the Darkforge Drain deck also has the advantage of being, like, essentially... Well, it's always green,
Yeah.
which we know is very good color, and it's almost always purple, which we know is the best color, right? So it can roll a lot of the random things that are already really good,
Right.
as well as having the like kill you button
Right.
built in.
And I had one game where I did make a 50 attack Oak Father and lost the game, but my opponent had to have a single answer. So I was on my back heel and said, like, either you have it or I have it.
And that's how the combo works sometimes. You know, it obviously nobody has like the actual perfect deck in any of the archetypes.
Right.
We just try to get close. And you know, the Darkforge Drain deck is very specific. You have you need the Mantis and the Forge Seal and the level 1 or I'm sorry, the cycle 2 Darkforge Drain on your Oros.
Right. You can do it with cycle 3, but it's less good.
Right, then it's very bad. I mean, it's not very bad. It's fine. But the reason you want the Cycle 2, obviously, is because you don't want to have to level up your Forge Seal or your Mantis early game.
Right.
You want to make good plays to fill your Darkforge Drain up, and then you just, hit the button at some point.
Right. And that's exactly how it plays. I mean,
right.
In one game, I did make a 56-53 Oak Father at turn 2, Cycle 2.
Right. It also does that where it can play a fine grindy game and still do the thing in cycle 3 or 4 off the Forge Seal or the Mantis, but it also has the potential to just beat you in cycle 2 because it made a 40-40.
Right. Exactly. So, well, Neil, we have filled our night. We got 2 hours in. We are moving the stream back because as long as Stoneblade is going to do Wednesday night coverage, we don't want our stream to overlap with the Stoneblade stream. So, obviously,
we want to be as cooperative as possible, and hopefully, it's easier for you guys because there were almost 50 people watching the Stoneblade stream, which was great.
Yep.
And we had 15, 16 people come over at the beginning, and then just most of you stayed, which we appreciate a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Carbon New Daddy, it's hard to find good finishers, which is what we were saying earlier already. So, I do think that there's some really cool stuff still, I think, to explore and potentially see open up here. And I hope that Rumbleheart, Krogius, whatever came out of Worlds, doesn't stifle the community's creativity to try to find those things, because I do think in a unique deck builder, what I'm saying is there are decks out there that are rolled really high that are on the low percentage side. And while maybe not everybody can recreate that, it's I think those decks potentially have a higher consistency floor and ceiling than what we're seeing win Worlds right now. But we'll see. Thanks, Rusty. I appreciate the kind words. We will be back next Wednesday. You'll be back in sunny Florida.
I will be back in Florida tomorrow. Thank God.
I'll still be here in sunny Nebraska.
You're gonna have to console your dog.
I know she's gonna be super sad, dude. My dog, it goes nuts for Neil.
I am Greta's favorite person.
Yeah.
Apparently, even after being gone for 2 years.
Yeah. She just loses it when you come over. So, yeah. So we'll. Carbonate says, "I'm very excited to be playing random decks from now on. I've had to get very creative with how to finish games." Yeah, so next stream will be the Worlds breakdown. We'll see if Nathis can join us. If not, we'll get Nathis on somewhere down the road just to talk about
we'll have
his
him.
mindset.
We'll have him live on the show. Hopefully, if not, we'll do a video.
Yep. And then we'll unpack more from the sealed event and the storyline event.
And we'll have some spoilers, whether they're ours or just mooching off of the other guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whomever's. So just stay tuned into the Discord.
Got a lot of exciting content coming up.
Yeah, obviously. And then we'll have more news about the league coming up here in the next week or so, and then also the SBI. So Shuffle Bus Invitational will get scheduled in the next week and be announced next week on stream. So lots of stuff to show next week. So be sure to come back and see us. And until then,
I got one more quick plug.
Yeah.
For anyone that's listening that has not backed Onk's Nexus Tracker on Kickstarter, go back it on Kickstarter. It's like the sweetest tool, and there's nobody that has like done more for the community than Onk.
Absolutely.
There's some people that work real hard on the same level, but he definitely has worked real hard and helped us with the coverage. So if you want to see the thing in action, go watch the Worlds coverage on YouTube.
He is so close. We are 98% to funding.
Yeah, let's get the thing funded.
Yeah, let's go do it, community. Like I think you guys can do this. Like he is $661 away.
Yeah,
so that's like the equivalent of like 6 of these trackers away from making these.
And
things.
I still have to back it, so one of them's mine.
So
just get in there.
Yeah, please go do it. If you haven't backed it, I know these things aren't super cheap, but I'm going to tell you, like, the quality is top notch. We got to see,
and God, it makes the game easier.
Oh my gosh, I played a couple of different games with it, and I was just like, I don't think I can go back.
I played my last round of the storyline event, and I literally had I have 2 things of 6-siders.
Yeah,
it's like, I guess 16 6-siders. I had them all on the table.
Yeah,
all of them.
Yeah, it can happen, right? And
they're hard to read. Like, obviously people prefer 10-siders, and I wish that I had those. It would have made it easier. But even the 10-siders and the people that have the nice little 10-sider holder things,
right.
Those are nice. But the Nexus trackers are so it's just so easy.
So we have, if you watch the tournament coverage from Gencon, you'll see the prototypes. Because that's what we were given
and
to use,
the one that you actually will get in the Kickstarter is even nicer than the ones
nice.
You'll see on stream.
Oh, yeah. The one he had it up on the front desk because he's only got one of those, and it is, it was sweet, man.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for it, and it's got sweet baked in stuff like swapping lanes and stuff, which was
it's really slick.
Yeah,
we're really close. Let's get it funded for him.
I really wanted to pull the trigger for a top 8. I just didn't know how soon I'd ever have an in-person tournament where I would need to have 16 of these things.
Yeah.
I was like, it'd be awesome. I'd love to be able to go set up at Hobbytown and hey, come play Solforge, and this is how you introduce the game. But it was just, I couldn't figure out a time.
Yeah,
I need that many.
I just forgot to say it earlier in the show. We should have kind of opened with that while we had all the people.
Yep.
But obviously he's been great to us. He's been great to the community. So let's be great to him because he's providing you a high quality product.
Yeah, it really is. It truly is. So, and we'll plug it next week again, because I think he's got 11 days to go, so it'll still be live next week. We'll be in the tail end of this, but let's push this thing over the finish line for him. Ben has worked so hard on this, and if there's a guy that deserves the payoff that comes with this, it's him. He's
right, and he's not taking a profit on this stuff.
No, I don't think so either.
Just the thinnest of margins will
just
get
enough
this.
to get this thing
yeah,
made. And then he'll have a few left over, hopefully, to sell. That'll give him a chance to make a little bit of money. But let's help him get there, because this community is built around that, and nobody can say he hasn't put in the work. He's been at Fuse Fest, he's been at all the Ultimate Championships, he's been at Gen Con, obviously. I think he might have gone to Origins, in fact. So he is definitely. He's put in the miles and the work to get it out in front of people, and so he definitely deserves as much credit as he can get for it. So, that's a great plug. I'm glad you said something. So this is going to wrap up the Shuffle Bus pod for tonight. We will be back next Thursday.
Next Wednesday.
Ugh, I'm still not functioning.
We will be back next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday,
with more Gen Con information.
7 Central to 9 Central. So Neil's going to have to get his late night on back home when he goes back to that East Coast. But Obviously, I'm very excited to get a weekly stream from Stoneblade. I think that's fantastic, and I can't wait to continue.
I mean, it's good for us too. Like, we had more people come over this time than we have in a long time. So
yep, exactly.
Even if they didn't stay.
Yep. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. We appreciate you sticking with us tonight for this recap, and we will see you all next week. Go play some Solforge. Take care.
Good night, everybody.